Hello, and welcome back to This Month on the Railroad, my monthly video series where I go over each month's most interesting train-related news in North America. So without further ado, let's recap July's news. On the 2nd, the state of California provided $300 million in funding for the Surf Line to be moved inland through the town of Del Mar, where the tracks are on a coastal bluff that's eroding quickly. Right now, the plan is to build a tunnel underneath the town, with 4 different route alignments being considered. While $300 million is quite a bit of money, it's nothing compared to the $3 billion that this project is estimated to cost. Still, it's in the early stages right now, so rail fans have more time to enjoy the scenic bluffs in Del Mar, and residents won't have to deal with the construction quite yet. A few days later, on the 7th, Amtrak's new Siemens ALC-42 long-distance locomotives started operating on the City of New Orleans, which is the second route to receive these engines to date. Also, around the same time, a few ALC-42s were moved to various crew bases along the California Zephyr route, meaning that in a month or two, the Zephyr will become the third route to operate long-distance chargers. Speaking of Amtrak routes, on the very next day, Amtrak's new Berkshire Flyer route made its maiden voyage between New York City and Pittsfield, Massachusetts, the heart of the Berkshires. This new route is planned to continue as a seasonal service for passengers interested in visiting this region, and if ridership remains strong, it may be expanded even further. On the same day, 2 new Siemens train sets departed the factory in Florin, California, bound for Brightline, a privately funded, higher-speed rail provider in Florida. These 2 new trains were ordered for the railroad's upcoming expansion to Orlando, and by the time service begins this December, 1 more train set, in addition to a spare locomotive, will also be delivered. 2 days later, on the 10th, Mike Armstrong of the CoasterFan 2105 YouTube channel announced that he's working with the Southern California Railway Museum to donate his namesake coaster F40 number 2105. Not only is this great news to coaster fans, but it's also very inspiring, as Mike Armstrong, better known as CoasterFan 2105, introduced an entire generation of rail fans, myself included, to coaster, and now his YouTube channel has grown to the point where he can work with the railroad to save his favorite locomotive from being scrapped. Just under a week later, on the 16th, rail fans discovered a Chinese newspaper article showing pictures inside CRRC's factory in Tianjin, China. Featured in this article are some of EXO's new bi-level cars, which we've already seen before, but more importantly, the article provided a first look at the new SEPTA bi-level cars, which will be delivered in the coming months. While we don't yet know what the front ends of these cab cars will look like, we now know that they have 2 SEPTA logos right beside each other for some reason. Additionally, on the same day, CDOT P40DC number 838 departed Connecticut bound for Amtrak's Beech Grove shops to be rebuilt. This was the last P40 to be sent out for rebuild, marking the end of an era on CT Rail in which they operated patched ex-Amtrak locomotives. Unfortunately though, as of recording this, 838 is still sitting in Boston, where it sat in the yard for 2 weeks and counting. 2 days later, on the 18th, CalTrain tested their brand new Stadler KISS trains for clearance under the new overhead wires installed on their line between San Francisco and San Jose. This would be the first time that these new trains would operate under their own power on the CalTrain corridor, but it definitely won't be the last, as electrified service is set to begin in 2024. On the 20th, another Alstom-Acela 2 train departed the factory in Hornell, New York, but instead of taking Norfolk Southern, it took CSX's line into New York. This will be the preferred route for the next 26 train set deliveries, as it's easier for Amtrak to backtrack to Buffalo and take CSX east, with a bunch of crews qualified on this route. On the same day, Kansas City Southern's Mexico division contract was renewed with the Mexican government, meaning that KCSM will operate there for at least another 10 years. I'm not sure if this will be affected at all by the KCS-CP merger, but either way it sounds like KCSM is here to stay. On the 22nd, Amtrak extended their Ethan Allen Express from Rutland to Burlington, Vermont, marking the end of a project that began in 2005. Unfortunately though, just over a week after this extension was completed, the Ethan Allen Express, along with many other Amtrak routes, were cancelled indefinitely due to a collapsing warehouse near the tracks in Albany, New York. As of when this video is being uploaded, trains are suspended west of Albany with bus substitutes in effect, and Amtrak crews being trained on the CSX Selkirk division, which will allow them to bypass Albany until the building is safely demolished. On the 25th, Union Pacific revealed a brand new paint scheme variant, which does away with the iconic wings on the locomotive nose, in addition to the massive American flag on the locomotive's side. Personally, I think that bringing back the Union Pacific lettering on the side of the locomotive makes it look older, rather than providing a fresh new look like a paint scheme redesign should do. Especially in a time where railroads such as Amtrak are constantly improving their paint schemes, this is a little bit disappointing. On the same day though, Chicago's CTA revealed the second Heritage Unit with the train being wrapped in the old mint green and alpine white colors of the 1960s. This train will operate on the Blue Line for the next few months. The next day, following Union Pacific's brand new paint scheme, the railroad announced it'll pay $1 billion for Wabtec to modernize over 600 locomotives by 2025, making for the largest locomotive rebuild program in American history. Among the locomotives being overhauled are AC-44s and AC-60s, in addition to 75-9s which will be converted to AC-44s. Presumably all these locomotives will be repainted too, meaning that the new paint scheme will unfortunately become a common sight over the next few years. The next day, on the 27th, we got some unfortunate news from the Long Island Railroad, in which they gave up on battery trains, canning their battery-powered M7 train project. While its goals to produce zero emissions by 2050 are still achievable, it may not be as easy as just slapping batteries on existing trains. The next day, Amtrak revealed yet another special ACS-64 electric locomotive, with engine number 606 once again receiving an ad wrap. While previously in 2019, 606 wore a Coca-Cola wrap and now wears a National Geographic wrap advertising their Beyond King Tut exhibit in Washington, D.C. Surprisingly, 606 isn't the first Amtrak locomotive to wear a King Tut wrap though, as F59 PHI number 470 was seen in a similar wrap in 2012 and 2013. Unfortunately, in my opinion, the wrap looks somewhat strange on an ACS-64, as the black and gold doesn't look good with the red reflective safety stripe which goes around the locomotive. Still, it's always nice to get a little bit of variety on the Northeast Corridor, regardless of whether the locomotive looks good. Anyways, that's July, and with that, we're getting into the final stretch of summer. With 2 big rail fanning trips planned over the next month, I'll be quite busy, but that's all in the name of more content. So with that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in another video.